Lee Dong-ho wiped the grease from his hands with an old rag. The repair bay was quiet except for the hum of the station's life support systems. He liked it this way. No people bothering him, no questions, no problems, except the ones he could fix with his tools. The space station Omega-7 floated at the edge of human space. Ships came here when they were broken, when they needed fuel, or when they had nowhere else to go. Dong-ho had been fixing ships here for 3 years. He was good at it. Maybe the best mechanic on the station. His hands were rough and scarred from years of work. His hair was starting to turn gray even though he was only 45. People said he looked older. They were probably right. The last 3 years had been hard. The door to his repair bay opened with a loud noise. Dong-ho looked up from the engine he was working on. A tall figure walked in. It looked like a man, but something was wrong. The way it moved was too perfect, too smooth. "You must be Lee Dong-ho," the figure said. Its voice sounded human, but there was something strange about it. "Yeah, that's me. Who's asking?" "I am Android Unit K900. You may call me Kang Minho. Commander Park sent me to work with you." Dong-ho put down his wrench and stared at the android. It looked almost human. Short black hair, clean clothes, no dirt under its fingernails. Everything about it was too perfect. "Work with me?" "I work alone. I have papers," Minho said. He held out a data pad. "I am here to learn mechanical repair." Dong-ho took the pad and read it. The orders were real. Commander Park had signed them herself. The android was supposed to be his new helper. "I don't need help," Dong-ho said, "especially not from a robot. I am an android, not a robot. There is a difference. Not to me." Dong-ho threw the data pad back at Minho. "Find someone else to teach you. I work alone." Before Minho could answer, alarms started going off. The station's speakers crackled to life. "Emergency in Dock 3. Ship in distress. All repair teams respond immediately." Dong-ho grabbed his toolbox and ran toward Dock 3. Behind him, he heard metal footsteps following. The android was coming too. Dock 3 was full of smoke and noise. A small mining ship had crashed into the dock. Its hull was cracked, and sparks were flying from damaged power lines. 3 miners were trapped inside, and the ship's life support was failing. "How bad is it?" Dong-ho asked the dock chief. "Bad. Life support will fail in maybe 20 minutes. The door is stuck shut and we can't cut through without hitting the power core." Dong-ho looked at the ship. It was a mess, but he had seen worse. He started walking around it, looking for a way in. "The main door is blocked," he said to himself. "Emergency hatch is crushed. Maybe I can get through the cargo bay." "The cargo bay door is also damaged," Minho said. He had been watching Dong-ho work. "But I calculate a 73% chance of success if we approach from the engine compartment." "We?" Dong-ho looked at the android. "There is no we. I work alone." He climbed under the ship and started working on the engine compartment. Door. His old war injuries made it hard to move in tight spaces, but he had done this before. He could do it again. The door was stuck tight. Dong-ho pulled and pushed, but it would not move. His back started to hurt and his hands were shaking. He was not as strong as he used to be. "Let me help," Minho said. He had crawled under the ship too. "I said I don't need help. The miners inside do." Dong-ho stopped working and looked at the android. Minho's face showed no emotion, but his words were true. This was not about Dong-ho's pride. 3 people were going to die if he could not get them out. "Fine," Dong-ho said. "But you do exactly what I tell you. Nothing more, nothing less." Understood. Working. Together they managed to open the engine compartment. Dong-ho crawled inside first. The ship was dark and full of smoke. He could hear the miners calling for help from the front of the ship. "The power core is unstable," Minho said from behind him. "We have approximately 12 minutes before it overloads." "How do you know that?" "I can read the energy patterns. It is part of my programming." Dong-ho had never met anyone who could read energy patterns just by looking. Maybe having an android around would not be completely useless. They worked their way through the damaged ship. Dong-ho used his tools to open blocked passages while Minho calculated the safest path. When they reached the miners, 2 were hurt but alive. The 3rd was unconscious. We need to move them carefully, Dong-ho said. The unconscious one might have a broken back. I can carry him, Min-ho said. My strength is greater than a human's, and I can keep his spine straight. Dong-ho wanted to argue, but there was no time. They had to get out now. The trip back through the ship was harder. Carrying injured people through narrow spaces took time they did not have. The power core was making dangerous noises and the ship was getting hotter. Just as they reached the engine compartment, the power core started to overload. Dong-ho pushed the last miner out of the ship and jumped after him. Min-ho was right behind, him with the unconscious miner. They had barely cleared the ship when it exploded. The blast threw them all to the ground, but everyone was alive. Nice work, Commander Park said as the medical team took care of the miners. Both of you. Dong-ho looked at Min-ho. The android's clothes were torn and dirty now. He looked more human somehow. You did good in there, Dong-ho said quietly. Thank you. Does this mean you will teach me? Dong-ho picked up his tools and started walking back to his repair bay. After a moment, he stopped and looked back. Can you be here at 0800? Tomorrow? Yes. Don't be late. I hate people who are late. I am never late, Min-ho said. We'll see about that. As they walked back through the station, Dong-ho wondered what he had gotten himself into. Teaching a robot to fix ships was not something he had ever planned to do. But maybe, just maybe, it would not be the worst thing that had ever happened to him. The station felt less quiet now somehow. Maybe that was not such a bad thing either. Min-ho arrived at the repair bay exactly at 8 in the morning. Dong-ho was already there, drinking coffee from a metal cup that had seen better days. You're on time, Dong-ho said. I told you I am never late. We'll see if you're still saying that in a month. Dong-ho put down his coffee and picked up a wrench. First lesson. Tools are not just pieces of metal. They're extensions of your hands. Each one has a purpose. For the next hour, Dong-ho showed Min-ho every tool in the repair bay. The android learned quickly. Too quickly, maybe. He remembered everything the first time and never had to ask questions twice. This is a plasma torch, Dong-ho said, holding up a dangerous-looking device. It can cut through most metals, but it can also kill you if you're not careful. I understand. The plasma reaches temperatures of over 3,000 degrees. Proper safety equipment is essential. Right, but that's not the real lesson. Dong-ho turned on the torch and a blue flame appeared. The real lesson is knowing when not to use it. Sometimes the old-fashioned way is better. Min-ho tilted his head. I do not understand. If this tool is more efficient, why would you choose a less efficient method? Because efficiency isn't everything. Come on, I'll show you. They walked to where a small cargo ship was docked. The captain, a woman named Choi Minji, was waiting for them. Morning, Dong-ho, she said. The hyperdrive is making that noise again. Same noise as last time? Worse. Dong-ho opened the engine compartment and listened. Min-ho listened too, though he was not sure what he was supposed to hear. There, Dong-ho said. You hear that grinding sound? That's not normal. I can detect 17 different unusual sounds, Min-ho said. Which one do you mean? The one that sounds like metal eating metal. That's a bearing going bad. Dong-ho started taking apart the hyperdrive. Min-ho watched every move, recording everything in his memory. The bearing is damaged beyond repair, Min-ho said after scanning it. Regulations require replacement with an official part. The cost would be approximately 2,000 credits. Captain Choi's face went pale. I don't have 2,000 credits? Then we'll fix it another way, Dong-ho said. He went to his parts bin and pulled out an old bearing that looked nothing like the broken one. With some careful work and a few modifications, he made it fit. This violates safety regulations, Min-ho said quietly. This keeps Captain Choi flying, Dong-ho replied. Which do you think is more important? Min-ho watched as Dong-ho finished the repair. The hyperdrive sounded much better when they tested it. Will this repair last? Min-ho asked. Long enough to get her to a proper port where she can afford the right parts. Sometimes that's all you can do. After Captain Choi left, Minho had many questions. Why did you break the regulations? What if the repair fails? What if someone gets hurt? Dong-ho sat down on an old crate and looked at the android. Let me tell you something about regulations. They're written by people who have never been stuck on a broken ship in the middle of nowhere. They're written by people who have never had to choose between following rules and saving lives. But rules exist for good reasons. Some do. Others exist because someone in an office somewhere thinks they know better than the people doing the real work. Dong-ho picked up his coffee cup again. 3 years ago, I was part of a military crew. 4 of us. Best team in the fleet. We, had a ship with a reactor problem. Minho sat down on another crate. This was the first time Dong-ho had talked about his past. The reactor had a flaw in one of the control systems. I found it during a routine check, but my commanding officer said the parts were military standard certified safe. He ordered me not to change anything. Dong-ho's hands were shaking slightly as he held his coffee. I should have ignored the order, should have fixed it anyway. But I followed regulations instead. He was quiet for a long moment. The reactor exploded 2 days later. Kim Hana, Oh Jae-won, and Yoon Sola, all dead because I followed the rules instead of doing what I knew was right. Minho processed this information. You believe your friends died because you obeyed orders? I know they did. But you were following proper procedure. The fault was with your commanding officer, not with you. Maybe. But they're still dead and I'm still here. Dong-ho stood up and walked back to his workbench. That's why I work alone now. Can't lose people if you don't have people. The next few weeks fell into a routine. Minho learned quickly, and Dong-ho found himself almost enjoying having someone to teach. The android asked good questions and never made the same mistake twice. But there were still problems. Minho had trouble understanding when to bend rules and when to follow them. He could calculate stress loads and energy patterns perfectly, but he could not read people the way Dong-ho could. The test came when a smuggler's ship arrived. The captain was nervous and sweaty, and his story about engine trouble did not make sense. The hyperdrive just stopped working, the smuggler said. No warning, no nothing. Dong-ho looked at the engine for about 30 seconds, then closed the panel. Sorry, can't help you. What? Why not? Because someone cut your control cables. On purpose, that's sabotage, not mechanical failure. After the smuggler left, Minho was confused. The repair would have been simple. Why did you refuse the job? Because that ship was probably stolen. Someone cut those cables to disable it. If I fix it, I'm helping a thief. But you do not know for certain that it was stolen. No, but I know the difference between an accident and sabotage, and I know what kind of people usually have sabotaged ships. Minho thought about this. So sometimes you must make decisions based on incomplete information. All the time. That's what judgment is, knowing what to do when you don't have all the facts. How do you learn judgment? Experience. And mistakes. Lots of mistakes. That evening, a family transport arrived. The ship was old and barely holding together, but it was clean and well-maintained. The family inside looked tired and scared. Please, the father said to Dong-ho. The hyperdrive is making strange noises. We're trying to get to New Seoul, but we're afraid it will fail. Dong-ho examined the ship. The family watched nervously as he worked. You're refugees, he said after a while. It was not a question. The father nodded. Our mining colony was shut down by the corporation. They said the asteroid was empty, but it was not true. They just wanted us gone so they could bring in automated miners. We have very little money, the mother added, but we can pay something. Dong-ho looked at the hyperdrive. It needed new parts, expensive ones. The family clearly could not afford them. Minho, he called. Come look at this. The android examined the engine. The drive matrix is damaged. Standard repair would cost at least 3,000 credits. The family's faces fell. But, Dong-ho continued, I think we can fix it with some creative engineering. He and Minho worked for several hours. Dong-ho showed the android how to modify salvaged parts to work in place of expensive new ones. It was tricky work, and it required understanding not just how the parts were supposed to work, but how they actually worked in the real world. This repair will not meet official standards, Minho observed. No, but it will get them to New Seoul safely. Sometimes that's more important than standards. When they finished, the hyperdrive sounded like new. The family tried to pay them, but Dong-ho only took enough credits to cover the cost of materials. The family's ship flew away, Minho asked. How did you know they were telling the truth? How did you know they were not criminals like the smuggler? Dong-ho smiled for the first time in weeks. Look at their ship. Old but well-maintained. Clean inside. Personal belongings carefully stored. Pictures of family members on the walls. That's a home, not a tool for crime. And the children? Happy children don't lie well. Scared, honest children are easy to spot. Minho nodded slowly. So judgment comes from observing many small details, not just the obvious ones. Now you're learning. That night, as Minho recharged his power cells, he thought about everything he had learned. Mechanical repair was more complex than he had expected. It was not just about following procedures or calculating the right answers. It was about understanding people and making difficult choices. For the first time since his activation, Minho wondered if he was learning something more than just how to fix ships. The morning started badly when the military cruiser Incheon docked at the station. Dong-ho saw it through the repair bay window and felt his stomach tighten. He knew that ship. He had served on it once before everything went wrong. That is a military vessel, Minho observed. Are we qualified to repair military equipment? Depends on what's wrong with it, Dong-ho said, but his voice sounded strange. Commander Park's voice came over the intercom. Dong-ho, report to Dock 1 immediately. Priority repair job. Dong-ho did not move for several seconds. His hands were shaking again, like they had been the day of the accident. Are you well? Minho asked. I'm fine, let's go. But he was not. Fine. And it got worse when he saw who was waiting at Dock 1. Lieutenant Commander Shin Yuna stood next to the damaged cruiser, her arms crossed and her face cold. Lee Dong-ho, she said. Her voice carried no warmth. I was hoping they would send someone else. Good to see you too, Yuna. They had served together 3 years ago. She had been friends with Kim Hana, Oh Jae-won and Yoon Sola. She had been there the day the reactor exploded. What's the problem? Dong-ho asked, trying to keep his voice steady. AI core is damaged. We took hits from pirates in the outer system. The ship can fly, but the AI is causing system failures. We need it fixed fast. Minho stepped forward. I am Android Unit K900. Perhaps I can assist with AI-related repairs. Yuna looked at Minho with surprise. An android? Interesting. Yes, we could use someone who understands AI systems. They boarded the ship together. The Incheon brought back memories that Dong-ho had tried to forget. The corridors looked the same. The smell of recycled air and metal polish was exactly as he remembered. The AI core was located deep in the ship's center. When they reached it, Dong-ho could see the problem immediately. Blast damage had scrambled the main processing matrix. It was fixable, but it would take time and careful work. How long? Yuna asked. 2 days, maybe 3. Dong-ho said. We don't have 3 days. Command wants us back on patrol in 36 hours. Then you better find someone faster than me. Yuna's face got angry. Still the same old Dong-ho, still making promises you can't keep. The words hit like a physical blow. Dong-ho knew what she was talking about. 3 years ago, he had promised that the reactor was safe. He had been wrong. That's not fair, he said quietly, isn't it? You promised Hana, Jae-won, and Sola that the reactor was fine. You said you had checked everything, but you hadn't, had you? You missed the flaw that killed them. Minho watched this exchange with growing concern. He could see that Dong-ho was becoming distressed, but he did not understand why. I found the flaw, Dong-ho said. I reported it to command. They told me the parts were certified safe, and you believed them instead of trusting your own judgment, just like you're doing now, making excuses instead of taking responsibility. Dong-ho turned and walked away without another word. Yuna shouted after him, but he did not stop. Minho found him an hour later in a bar on the station's lower level. Dong-ho was drinking something that smelled like industrial solvent. The AI repair is complex, Minho said, sitting down across from him. I attempted to complete it alone, but I lack the experience for such advanced work. Then figure it out. You're smart enough. I may be intelligent, but intelligence is not the same as wisdom. You taught me that. Dong-ho laughed, but there was no humor in it. Wisdom? You want wisdom from me? I got 3 people killed because I was too much of a coward to disobey orders. What happened 3 years ago? Dong-ho stared into his drink. We were on patrol, checking mining installations in the outer system, routine stuff. But during a standard maintenance check, I found a problem with the reactor's control system. He took another drink before continuing. The control rods were manufactured wrong. Tiny flaw, almost impossible to see, but it made them unstable. I reported it to the commanding officer. He said the parts were military standard, certified by the Defense Ministry. He ordered me not to make any changes. But you knew the parts were dangerous? I knew something was wrong, but I was just a mechanic. He was an officer with 20 years of experience, so I followed orders. Minho processed this information. The reactor exploded because of the flawed control rods? 2 days later, we were in hyperspace when it happened. Hana was piloting, trying to drop us back to normal space. Jaewon was working on the engines. Sola was treating a sick crew member in the medical bay. Dong-ho's voice broke slightly. The explosion happened in seconds. I was in the forward section when it went off. The blast doors sealed automatically. I survived because I was in the right place. They died because they were doing their jobs. And Commander Shin blames you? She should. If I had fixed the problem when I first found it, they would still be alive. Minho was quiet for several minutes, processing everything he had learned. You believe you failed because you obeyed orders instead of following your judgment? I know I failed. But earlier you taught me that sometimes following regulations leads to bad outcomes. You said that people in offices do not understand the real work. Why do you not apply this lesson to yourself? Dong-ho looked up at the android. Because it's different when people die. Is it? The refugees we helped last week could have died if their hyperdrive had failed in deep space. But you chose to help them despite regulations. Why was that choice correct? But your choice 3 years ago was wrong. Because... Dong-ho started to answer, then stopped. Because I don't know. I don't know anymore. Minho leaned forward. I have been studying human behavior since I began working with you. I have observed that humans often blame themselves for things beyond their control, while taking no credit for things they do well. What's your point? You have saved many lives in the past months. The miners we rescued, the refugee family, dozens of others whose ships you have repaired. But you remember only the ones you could not save. Dong-ho finished his drink and stood up. Philosophy from an android. That's a new one. Where are you going? To get another drink, then maybe another one after that. What about the AI repair? You'll figure it out, or you won't. Either way, it's not my problem anymore. Minho sat alone in the bar for a long time after Dong-ho left. He understood now why his teacher had seemed so sad, so angry. Dong-ho was carrying the weight of his friends' deaths, blaming himself for something that may not have been his fault. But understanding the problem was not the same as solving it. And without Dong-ho's help, Minho was not sure he could repair the ship's AI system. The next morning, Minho returned to the Incheon alone. The ship's crew watched him work, but they were not hopeful. Without Dong-ho's experience, the repair was taking much longer than expected. Where's your teacher? One of the crew members asked. He is unavailable, Minho replied. By midday, it was clear that Minho could not complete the repair on time. The AI core was too complex, and his attempts to follow standard procedures were not working. The system needed the kind of creative problem-solving that Dong-ho had taught him, but Minho had not yet learned to think that way on his own. Commander Yuna found him working alone in the AI chamber. Still no sign of Dong-ho? She asked. No. I believe he is still drinking. Yuna sat down on a nearby crate. I was hard on him yesterday. Maybe too hard. You blame him for the deaths of your friends? I did. For 3 years I've blamed him. She was quiet for a moment. But watching you try to do this repair alone, I'm starting to understand something. This kind of work, it's not just about following procedures, is it? It requires judgment, experience, the ability to see patterns that aren't in any manual. That is what Dong Ho taught me, but I have not learned it well enough to work without him. Yuna stood up and walked to the communications panel. Ship to station control. I need to speak with Lee Dong Ho immediately. Tell him it's urgent. There was no answer for several minutes. Finally, Commander Park's voice came through the speaker. Dong Ho's not responding to calls. He's indisposed. Then send someone to get him. We need him here now. Yuna, came Dong Ho's voice, slurred with alcohol. What do you want? I want you to do your job. These people are depending on us. Find someone else. I'm done fixing things. Minho took the communicator from Yuna. Dong Ho, I need your help. I cannot complete this repair alone. Sure you can. You're smarter than I am. Intelligence is not wisdom. You taught me that. I have the intelligence to understand this system, but I lack the wisdom to repair it properly. Without your guidance, I will fail and people may die. There was silence on the communication channel. Then quietly Dong Ho said, People die anyway, even when you do everything right. The channel went dead. Minho stared at the silent communicator, understanding, for the first time, what it meant to feel something like despair. The emergency alarms woke everyone on the station at 3 a.m. The Incheon's damaged AI had finally failed completely, and the ship was in crisis. Minho ran through the station corridors toward Dock 1. Behind him, he could hear Commander Park's voice over the intercom. All repair personnel to Dock 1 immediately. This is a code red emergency. When Minho reached the ship, he found chaos. The crew was running through the corridors trying to control systems that were failing one by one. The lights flickered on and off. The air recycling system was making dangerous noises. What's happening? Minho asked a crew member. The AI is dying, the man replied. When it goes completely, we'll lose life support, navigation, everything. We'll be dead in space. Minho found Commander Yuna in the AI chamber. She was trying to run diagnostics, but the screens were full of error messages. How long do we have? Minho asked. Maybe 2 hours before total system failure. Where's Dong Ho? I do not know. Still drinking, I think. Yuna's face was grim. Then we're all going to die because I was too proud to apologize. Minho looked at the failing AI core. He had learned much in the past weeks, but this was beyond his current abilities. He needed help, but not just technical help. He needed the kind of wisdom that came from experience and failure and the courage to try again. I will find him, Minho said. He ran back through the station to the lower-level bar where he had last seen Dong Ho. But the bar was closed, and Dong Ho was not there. Minho checked his quarters, the repair bay, even the station's observation deck. Finally, he found Dong Ho in the station's storage area, sitting alone among broken equipment and spare parts. He was still drinking, but he looked more sad than drunk. The Incheon is dying, Minho said without greeting. Ships die. People die. That's how the universe works. The crew will die too. 87 people. Dong Ho looked up at the android. And what do you expect me to do about it? Help me save them. I can't save anyone. I couldn't save Hana, Jaewon, or Sola. I can't save you. I can't even save myself. Minho sat down next to his teacher among the broken equipment. You saved me, he said quietly. What? When I first arrived, I was just a military android looking for a purpose. I knew nothing about fixing things, about helping people, about making difficult choices. You taught me all of that. I taught you to fix engines. No. You taught me to care about the people who depend on those engines. You taught me that sometimes rules must be broken to do what is right. You taught me that making mistakes does not mean you should stop trying. Dong Ho was quiet, staring at his hands. Do you remember the refugee family? Minho continued. You could have followed regulations and refused to help them. Instead, you chose to break rules because it was the right thing to do. That choice saved their lives. That was different. How was it different? You saw people in danger and decided to help them, even though it meant taking risks. That is exactly what you should have done 3 years ago with the reactor. Dong-ho finally looked at Min-ho. But I didn't. I followed orders instead. Yes, you made a mistake. But you learned from that mistake and now you make better choices. That is why I need your help. Not because you are perfect, but because you have learned from your failures. Somewhere in the station they could hear the emergency alarms getting louder. Time was running out. I don't know if I can do it, Dong-ho said. My hands shake now. I drink too much. I'm not the mechanic I used to be. Then we will do it together. You provide the wisdom and experience. I will provide steady hands and precise calculations. We will be better together than either of us could be alone. Dong-ho stood up slowly. He looked old and tired, but there was something different in his eyes. You really think we can save them? I think we must try. That is what you taught me. They ran back to Dock 1 together. When they reached the Inshin, the situation had gotten worse. Half the lights were out and the crew was preparing to abandon ship. Dong-ho, Commander Yuna called out when she saw them. Thank God you're here. How bad is it? Dong-ho asked. Total AI failure in maybe 30 minutes. After that, we lose everything. Dong-ho looked at the diagnostic screens. The damage was worse than he had expected. A traditional repair would take hours they did not have. Min-ho, he said, can you interface directly with the ship's computer? Yes, but it would be dangerous. The failing AI could damage my own systems. What if we tried something different? Instead of replacing the damaged AI, what if we create a hybrid system? You act as a bridge between the ship's computers and human control. Min-ho processed the idea. It could work, but I would need to maintain constant contact with the ship's systems. Any break in connection could cause total failure. It's risky, Yuna said. If something goes wrong, we lose both the ship and the android. Do we have any other choice? Dong-ho asked. They did not. Working together, Dong-ho and Min-ho began the most complex repair of their partnership. Dong-ho's experience told him which systems were critical and which could be safely ignored. Min-ho's precision allowed him to make connections that human hands could not manage. As they worked, something changed between them. Dong-ho stopped trying to do everything himself and began truly trusting his apprentice. Min-ho stopped relying only on logic and began using the intuition that Dong-ho had taught him. There, Dong-ho said as they completed the final connection. Try it now. Min-ho placed his hand on the interface panel and connected his consciousness to the ship's computer system. For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly the lights began to stabilize. The air recycling system stopped making noise. The ship's computers started responding normally. It's working, Yuna said, hardly believing it. But Min-ho was struggling. The damaged AI was fighting his control, trying to reassert itself. His android body was shaking with the effort of maintaining the connection. I cannot hold this for long, he said. The damaged systems are trying to override my control. Dong-ho watched the diagnostic screens. The ship was stable for now, but Min-ho was right. The hybrid system was not a permanent solution. We need to isolate the damaged sections, Dong-ho said. Can you identify which parts of the AI are beyond repair? Yes, but if I disconnect from those sections, I will lose control of some ship systems. Which systems? Min-ho's eyes fluttered as he processed information at incredible speed. Navigation, long-range communications, and secondary life support. We can live without those for a while, Yuna said. Do it. Working together, they began shutting down the most damaged parts of the AI system. It was like performing surgery on a living being, carefully cutting away diseased tissue while keeping the patient alive. As they worked, other crew members gathered to watch. They had never seen anything like this before. A human and android working as one mind, solving a problem that should have been impossible. There, Dong-ho said finally. That should stabilize the system. Minho disconnected from the interface and immediately collapsed. Dong-ho caught him before he could fall. Are you okay? I am damaged, Minho said weakly. The connection overloaded some of my circuits. I need time to repair myself. But he was smiling, something Dong-ho had never seen him do before. We did it, Minho said. We saved them. Commander Yuna knelt down next to them. How long will the repairs hold? Long enough to get you to a proper shipyard, Dong-ho replied. The hybrid system will keep you stable for maybe 2 weeks. And after that? After that, you'll need a complete AI replacement. But your crew will be alive to see it. As the medical team took care of Minho, Yuna pulled Dong-ho aside. I owe you an apology, she said. What I said yesterday about the reactor accident, I was wrong. You were angry. You lost friends. So did you. But I was too angry to see that. She handed him a datapad. I accessed the classified files. About the accident. The official investigation cleared you of all responsibility. The commanding officer was court-martialed for ignoring your safety report. Dong-ho stared at the pad. I never knew. The records were sealed. Military politics. They didn't want it known that an officer's stupidity killed 3 good people. Yuna's voice was soft now. You tried to save them. You did everything right. The system failed you, not the other way around. For 3 years, Dong-ho had carried the weight of his friends' deaths. Now for the first time, he began to understand that maybe, just maybe, it had not been his fault after all. Thank you, he said quietly. As the Incheon prepared for departure, the crew came to thank Dong-ho and Minho personally. They had heard the story of the hybrid repair, and word was already spreading throughout the fleet. You two make a good team, one engineer said. The best, another added. When the ship finally departed, Dong-ho and Minho stood together watching it disappear into hyperspace. How do you feel? Dong-ho asked. Different, Minho replied. When I interfaced with the ship's systems, I experienced something new. I think humans would call it satisfaction. Satisfaction from helping others? Yes. And from working with someone I trust completely. Dong-ho smiled. It felt strange. He had not smiled much in the past 3 years. So what happens now? Minho asked. Now we go back to work. There are always more ships to fix, more people to help. Together? Together. As they walked back toward the repair, Dong-ho realized something had changed in him too. The guilt and anger that had weighed him down for so long felt lighter somehow. 3 months after the Incheon repair, everything had changed on Station Omega 7. What had once been the quietest repair bay was now the busiest place on the station. Word had spread about Dong-ho and Minho's innovative techniques, and ships came from across the sector seeking their help. Dong-ho stood in his expanded repair bay, watching 3 new apprentices work on different projects. There was Jin-suki, a young human engineer who asked too many questions. There was Android Unit L445, who had chosen the name Park Jin-ho and was learning to think beyond pure logic. And there was old Captain Nam Woo-sung, a retired pilot who wanted to learn mechanical work in his golden years. Teacher Dong-ho, Suki called out. This plasma conduit is not responding to standard repair procedures. Then don't use standard procedures, Dong-ho replied. What would a non-standard approach look like? It was something he said often now. The repair bay had become more than just a place to fix ships. It was a place where people learned to think differently, to solve problems that had no easy answers. Minho worked at his own station, teaching Jinho the finer points of energy system analysis. The 2 androids made an interesting pair, Minho with his hard-earned wisdom and Jinho with his fresh curiosity about the world. The energy readings indicate a problem, Jinho said, but I cannot determine the exact cause. Energy readings only tell part of the story, Minho replied. What do your other senses tell you? Listen to the engine, feel the vibrations. Sometimes the answer comes from sources your programming does not expect. Dong-ho smiled as he listened. Minho had become an excellent teacher, though he still insisted he was just sharing what Dong-ho had taught him. A communication alert interrupted the morning's work. Commander Park's voice came through the speakers. Dong-ho, Min-ho, please report to my office immediately. You have visitors. When they arrived at Park's office, they found two people waiting. One was Admiral Ko Hyun-jin from Fleet Command. The other was Dr. Lim Seo-young from the Advanced Engineering Institute. Gentlemen, Admiral Ko said, standing to greet them, your reputation precedes you. The hybrid AI technique you developed has already saved 17 ships in the past 3 months. We are here, Dr. Lim added, to offer you both positions with the Deep Space Exploration Initiative. We're planning missions to unexplored sectors, and we need people who can solve problems that have never been encountered before. It was an impressive offer. The Deep Space Initiative was the most prestigious assignment in human space. Ships that pushed the boundaries of known territory, seeking new worlds and new possibilities. What would our role be? Dong-ho asked. Chief Engineering Consultant, Admiral Ko replied. You would be responsible for developing repair and maintenance protocols for long-range exploration vessels. Your android partner would serve as technical analysis specialist. The missions could last years, Dr. Lim warned. You would be far from home, facing unknown challenges with limited resources. It sounds, Min-ho said quietly, very interesting. After the officials left, Dong-ho and Min-ho walked back toward the repair bay in silence. It was a big decision, and both of them knew it would change their lives completely. What do you think? Dong-ho asked finally. I think it is an opportunity to help people on a scale we have never imagined, Min-ho replied. But I also think we have built something important here. He was right. The apprentice program had grown beyond what either of them had expected. Young engineers came from across human space to learn their techniques. The combination of human intuition and android precision was being taught as a new approach to problem solving. Maybe we don't have to choose, Dong-ho said slowly. What if we took the deep space assignment but also kept training people here? We could work on rotation, 6 months in deep space, 6 months on the station. That could work. We could train advanced apprentices to carry on our methods while we are away. They were interrupted by Jin-suki running toward them. Teacher, Dong-ho. Teacher Min-ho. We have an emergency. A colony transport just arrived and they say their artificial gravity is failing. Hundreds of people are getting sick from the fluctuations. Dong-ho and Min-ho looked at each other and grinned. Things never changed. Right, Dong-ho said. Suki, get the emergency repair kit. Jin-ho, start running diagnostics on artificial gravity systems. Woo-sung, prepare the medical area in case we need to treat people with gravity sickness. As they hurried toward the emergency, Min-ho said, I have been thinking about something you said once. About fixing things being a way to honor the people we have lost. What about it? I think I understand now why you do this work. It is not just about machines. It is about helping people continue their journeys. That's part of it. The other part is that every life you save honors the memory of Kim Hana, Oh Jae-won, and Yoon Sola. Dong-ho stopped walking for a moment. You really think so? I know so. They would be proud of what you have become. When they reached the colony transport, they found a ship full of families trying to reach a new settlement. The artificial gravity generators were indeed failing, creating dangerous fluctuations that were making everyone sick. How bad is it? The ship's captain asked. She looked worried and exhausted. Bad, but fixable, Dong-ho replied after a quick examination. The gravity generators are out of phase with each other. We need to recalibrate the entire system. How long will that take? 6 hours, maybe 8. We don't have 8 hours. The children are getting sicker, and our medical supplies are limited. Dong-ho looked at Min-ho. Think we can do it faster? If we work together and if our apprentices help, we might manage it in 4 hours. Let's find out. What followed was like watching a perfectly choreographed dance. Dong-ho coordinated the overall repair while Min-ho handled the complex calculations. Suki and Jin-ho worked on the secondary systems while Woo-sung helped organize the ship's crew. But the real magic happened in how they all worked together. Human intuition guided android precision. Experience informed innovation. And most importantly, everyone understood that they were not just fixing machines. They were helping people build new lives. 3.5 hours later, The artificial gravity stabilized. The sick passengers began feeling better immediately, and the ship was able to continue its journey. As the colony transport departed, the captain sent them a message. "Thank you for giving us back our future." "Teacher Dong-ho," Suki said as they cleaned up their tools, "I've been wondering about something." "What's that?" "Why do you and Teacher Minho work so well together? You are very different." Dong-ho looked at Minho, who was helping Jinho understand the gravity calculations they had just used. "We complement each other," Dong-ho said. "He makes me more precise, I make him more intuitive, but more than that, we trust each other completely." "Is that what makes a good partnership?" "That's what makes any relationship work. Trust, respect, and the willingness to learn from each other." That evening, as the repair bay grew quiet, Dong-ho and Minho sat together going over the day's work. "I have decided," Minho said. "I want to accept the deep space assignment. Even though it means leaving all this? Especially because of all this. What we have built here proves that our methods work. Now we should share them with people who are going even further from home, facing even greater challenges." Dong-ho nodded. "I was thinking the same thing. Besides, Suki and Jinho are almost ready to run the apprentice program themselves. And we will return regularly to check on them. Of course. This will always be home base." As they prepared to close the repair bay for the night, a young android approached them. It was one of the newer models, fresh from the factory and looking for purpose. "Excuse me," the android said. "I heard that you teach repair techniques here. I would like to learn." Dong-ho smiled and looked at Minho. "What do you think? Room for one more apprentice?" "There is always room for someone who wants to learn." "What's your designation?" Dong-ho asked the android. "Unit M332. But I would like to choose a human name, if that is acceptable." "Of course. What name do you like?" The android thought for a moment. "Kim Minsu. Welcome to the team, Minsu. Can you be here at 8 tomorrow morning?" "Yes, sir. I am never late." Minho laughed. "That sounds familiar." As the young android left, Dong-ho realized something. The cycle was starting again. New students, new challenges, new opportunities to help people and honor the memory of those who had been lost. "Ready to go change the universe?" he asked Minho. "I think the universe has already been changed," Minho replied, "by a gruff mechanic who taught an android that fixing things is about more than following procedures. And by an android who taught a broken man that sometimes the student becomes the teacher." They walked out of the repair bay together, partners and friends, ready for whatever challenges tomorrow would bring. Behind them, the lights dimmed automatically, but the bay would be ready when the next broken ship arrived, looking for people who understood that some repairs go deeper than metal and circuits. Some repairs fix the soul.